Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Josh. Happy Sunday. Happy NFL Sunday, Week 12. Hope you are running good right now in your NFL contests. Um, it was definitely a Browns day. Should have known to stack the Browns with the revenge game against Hugh Jackson on the Bengals sideline. Got me some Chubb, but didn't get Baker Mayfield in there. But it got Andrew Luck going, so we'll see if he can continue the three touchdown streak this afternoon. But the reason I'm streaming right now is because I'm going to talk to you about a little NBA action tonight. Going to try to keep this video relatively quick. I'm going to show you a few additions I've made to the NBA sheet, which is linked in my Twitter bio. So feel free to check that out if you'd like, or just watch along on here, and I'll pull that up on your screen momentarily. I don't have my Periscope open right now. I am streaming to Periscope, but I'm feeding this in from my laptop, so I'm not going to see your questions. So sorry. All right. Without further ado, let's jump in. So, want to go over some quick additions here that you should know about. The first thing is ownership projections. Column H right here is ownership projections. You are seeing what I'm pulling from LineStar. LineStarApp.com has free ownership projections. You don't even have to have an account. You can just pull it right up and see their ownership projections. Are they good? I don't know. I'm not too sure. But they are indeed projections for ownership, and they're free. So, just another variable we can throw into our model. Again, we're looking for free stuff here. And if I can find ownership projections that I can easily pull into my sheet and they're free, I'm all in. The other thing here that I have included is market share. So those of you that are big NFL DFS fans know that market share is a big component of picking good players. You want your players to have a big share of their team's offensive output. So, for example, target market share. If a guy's got 20% plus of his team's targets, then that's really good. I looked at things from a fantasy point market share perspective. So in columns K, L, and M, you see these things right here. K is market share for the season. So it's basically the players' fantasy points per game divided by the team's fantasy points per game over a span of time. So if we sort by season, Joel Embiid accounts for 23% of the Sixers' fantasy points, which is easily tops on the slate. Then market share 2, Joel Embiid still remains at the top with 24% of his team's fantasy points over the last 2 weeks. You have noticed, however, that from market share season, which only one guy, Embiid, was over 20%, you now have, in the last 2 weeks, 4 guys, Damian Lillard, Kemba Walker, and Marc Gasol, joining the 20% club. So these 4 guys account for at least 1/5 of their team's fantasy points per game over the last 2 weeks. And then difference. If I sort by difference, it's the percentage increase, not the increase in raw percentage points. So Trey Burke going from 10.1 to 13.6 would not be an increase of 3.5. It's actually an increase of 34.7%. So 34.7% increase. If I only did raw point increases, so if a guy went from 10 to 13 and I gave him 3, that's a huge increase going from 10 to 13. But a guy going from 20 to 23, I mean, that's a big increase, but that's not nearly as significant of an increase as 10 to 13 is. So I did actual percentage increase. So Trey Burke has seen the biggest increase in his market share of the Knicks fantasy point output from his season average of 10.1 to his 2-week average of 13.6. So that's included in the model now. As before, we have salary, expected salary, the difference from expected to actual salary. We have season, average points per game, and their plus minus on a 5x value multiplier basis. And it's their season average compared to their current salary. So right now, I guess your best deal, would be DeAndre Bembry. But I don't know if we're really that into Bembry tonight with healthy wings for Atlanta. So there's that. We have our projected minutes. Again, that's free from RotoGrinders. Fantasy points per minute. Projected points plus minus. Ceiling plus minus. Floor plus minus. All of this stuff is from RotoGrinders, save the ownership projection. RotoGrinders has ownership projections, but you have to pay for it, and I don't like paying for stuff. I like free stuff. All right. So what is this last column here? The last column here is rank. I am not just ranking these guys willy-nilly. I am ranking them based on a pretty convoluted bunch of variables. Well, it's not really that convoluted. I shouldn't say it's convoluted. It's pretty simple, but it's a lot going into just one number. And I'll show you what it is right now. So I have all these columns hidden here. And I basically ranked every single thing that's on this sheet. And then I've averaged them together for a raw rank average. And then I ranked those raw averages. And then I've ranked based on the raw averages each position. And then I averaged those two together, ranked the weighted average, and then looked at some differences between the weighted average and the actual average, and and the weighted average from the other weighted average. Looked at the difference between those two numbers there and put it all together for a final rank. Okay, you're like, Jesus Christ, man, what the hell? Like, are you kidding me? No, I'm not kidding you. It's a shitload of stuff, I know. However, let's hide it. And all you are going to look at is rank. So do you need to look at rank? No, you can look at rank if you want to. There's a lot of other ways to get value out of this sheet other than rank. Okay. However, I think the rank is pretty cool because it's taking everything you're seeing here and putting everything on an equal playing field and averaging it all together to come up with one number to convey how good of a player you are looking at for that given slate. A couple things that I'm not really sure about, like I said, the higher own projection, the better. I don't think that a low ownership projection is good. Um, it's good in the sense that you can find a diamond in the rough and get some nice ownership leverage, but I'm a big proponent of following the wisdom of crowds. So in my model, higher ownership factors in positively to the rank. So keep that in mind. Higher salary also factors in positively to the rank. A player is low in salary for a reason. So I don't think that low salaries are good. They're helpful if you find another, again, diamond in the rough. But a high salary, it's high for a reason. And I'm mitigating the high salary by looking at the expected salary versus salary difference. So, for example, if we sort by difference and find a high salary like Montrezl Harrell, okay, Marc Gasol, both of these guys are high salary guys for this slate. Harrell is 8,300, Marc Gasol's 9,200. But based on their recent play, they deserve those high salaries. In fact, they deserve even higher salaries because Marc Gasol, based on his recent play, should be 9,800 and Harrell should be 8,800. So I am accounting for like whether or not the high salary or low salary is warranted. Same goes for like, the other end of the spectrum, Jimmy Butler. Okay, Jimmy Butler is a great player, but his salary is too high based on what he's doing right now. Right now, he's more of a $6,500 player. Rudy Gobert, same deal, 6,500. De'Aaron Fox is kind of coming back down to earth. He should be 6,400 based on his recent play. Kawhi, same deal, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, anyways, enough of explaining how the model works. Let's take a look and see what we're working with tonight. So I'm going to sort by rank, and I'll just start with point guard. Let's clear all these babies out and look at just point guard. I got to delete some of these guys off the bottom here. You're going to see a live troubleshooting. I know what I got to do. I'm going to make a video one day here of how this whole thing works. Like the Excel side of things. That's for another day. But I got to fix some of these formulas. So if you'll bear with me for a moment, we'll get this up and running here. I'm not going to talk. Sorry. And by the way, I have learned so much about Excel in recent days, simply based on VLOOKUP. VLOOKUP has changed like everything for me. It's amazing. I love it. You have got to learn VLOOKUP. Like I said, I'll make a video about it soon. So I'm going to hide these columns. All right. And we need to... Oh, I see what I did wrong here. I went too far. It's got to go to plus minus. My bad. I wish I could talk while I was doing this, but alas, I cannot. Um, so I'll tell you, VLOOKUP, basically what you can do is you can take a data set. I'll actually show you right here. So all of my sheet is pulling data from this other page here. It's all this data here, and it automatically puts it in to this sheet based on the the target cell I'm looking at. So for example, if I'm targeting names, anything in here that's next to, you know, Jimmy Butler or Ben Simmons will go in the right place. So it expedites like combing through data like really easily. Allows you to make pretty robust spreadsheets. So it's pretty sweet. All right. So 87 is the value I need to look at. My apologies for all of this. I know this is really boring, but it'll be worth it, I hope. I don't know. I don't know if that's for me to judge, if it's going to be worth it. I think that's for you to judge. 87. Good, good, good. And 87. And then we need to do those ones there, and I think we're good. And then we can go back to actual DFS fun. All right, we're good. Let me hide these, and I will continue where I was before. All right. So again, I'm sorry for that. My apologies. Very unprofessional of me. Okay, let's go back to point guard. Hopefully, if you've tuned out, you're back with me. If you're not, fuck you. All right. So point guard, you can see that now rank looks different. You've got 2 top 10 guys. You got 6 top 20 guys. And honestly, I think we should really spend most of our time looking at those top 20 guys. Ideally, we stay there, but maybe you can get away with like a top 40 guy depending on how you think game flow is going to go in that particular game. You know, you can, maybe you want to just jam in a cheap option. But once you start getting down below top 40, in a slate this size, things get a little hairy. So looking at point guard, the model likes Damian Lillard and Kemba Walker the most. Mike Conley, third most. Spencer Dinwiddie is fourth, and Kyle Lowry's fifth. De'Aaron Fox comes right in at number 19 to make the top 20. If we sort by market share difference, so you'll see a couple standouts there. Trey Burke and Jeremy Lin have seen huge spikes in market share. Both of those guys are 2 guys you definitely want to keep on your radar any night, because if their team is losing, getting blown out, they are going to get some serious run and some serious usage, especially scoring the basketball. These are 2 scoring guards, in addition to other, ancillary statistics. But both of these guys can put up 25 points, in short order. And when I say 25 points, I mean 25 real points. And just lately, their teams, have been in positions to put them in good game flow spots. So Trey Burke and Jeremy Lin, you can see that whole element expressed in both the areas of market share 2 weeks versus market share season difference, and expected salary versus salary difference. So both of these guys are playing like, players almost $1,000 more expensive than their current price. And I think what that really indicates is if you are confident that the Hawks or the Knicks will be losing that game, then you definitely want to, get a piece of some Burke and Lynn. If we go to Vegas odds, let's see what we're working with here for Atlanta and New York. Main slate. So the Knicks currently are 8.5-point dogs, and the Hawks are 6.5-point dogs. Memphis has seen an increase by 0.5 point in the spread, and Atlanta's actually closed the gap a bit. The Atlanta-Charlotte games got definitely a better over-under situation than the Knicks, 22 points ahead of the Knicks and Grizzlies game. Those spreads are not crazy. Definitely not something that gives you serious pause. I mean, most nights Atlanta and New York are going to be dogs as it is. So I don't know if I feel great about Lynn and Burke tonight. Could they go off? I mean, maybe. Both of them are top 40 players. Burke just cracked the top 25 as far as rank goes. So there might be a case for Trey Burke. Obviously Jeremy Lin too, but, tread lightly. Ownership projections. Burke is 21% owned projected. Lin only 6.4. So you could get some leverage on ownership and go with Jeremy Lin. So it wouldn't be a bad play at all. It's just you want to, tread lightly. We don't have certain blowout environment here for either of these teams, so just be careful. Moving down a little bit as far as market share difference goes, one guy that really stands out to me is Spencer Dinwiddie. Ever since Caris LeVert went down, he's been a key cog in this Brooklyn rotation, and that rotation is frustrating because you don't really see many guys getting crazy big minutes. But Dinwiddie's cheap enough and efficient enough to make do with 28, 29, 30 minutes. We don't really need 35 to 38 minutes for him. He comes in at number 15, which is a nice solid rank. His salary versus expected is in the ballpark. When you see a negative difference, it's really not a massive red flag unless it's, significant. Negative 0.4 is really not anything to write home about. It's not a terrible difference, so keep that in mind. Projected for 11.8% ownership. So if we sort by ownership, Line Star is predicting that Dinwiddie will be your 2, 4, 6, 7th highest owned point guard. But his rank, he is your 4th in rank. So there is a nice positive difference between his positional rank versus his positional ownership. So I like Spencer Dinwiddie a lot in this matchup going against Philly. I feel good about him. I do want to save some money here at point guard because there's some other spots I want to pay up for. What else am I seeing here? Let's look at some cheap ceiling. You can find cheap ceiling by sorting by ceiling plus minus. And your cheapest ceiling is Kemba Walker. He's got a 74-point ceiling. And at 9,400, you got to love that crazy good ceiling. That is a monster ceiling. Kyle Lowry has that type of ceiling too. But here's the big difference is while Kyle Lowry and Kemba Walker are both at like about 70-point ceilings, similar ceiling plus minuses. Notice the market share situation. Kyle Lowry's seen a 13.6% drop in team market share for over the last 2 weeks versus his season-long market share, while Kemba Walker has seen a 6.8% increase. So these guys are looking to be owned at the same rate. They have similar ceilings, similar value on those ceilings, similar value on their floors too. However, the market share situation heavily favors Kemba Walker. And as you recall, the Vegas situation is nice for Kemba Walker too. So definitely going to give the win to Kemba over Kyle Lowry. Toronto's also a big favorite over the Heat. So I think Lowry, he could put up a bunch of points in short order, fantasy points, but Kemba's going to be, if the game goes the way Vegas thinks it could go, from start to finish, just balling. So I like Kemba a lot. So I guess my two favorite point guards for this slate are Kemba Walker and Spencer Dinwiddie. Not really sure about Mudiay because there's the whole Trey Burke thing. Maybe there is some blowout concern expressed in this ownership projection for Trey Burke versus Mudiay, as Mudiay is the starter. That's the hard thing about this situation for Knicks point guards is whoever is going to get the minutes is going to, produce a good line for you. So, but you got to really think hard about it. You got to like Dame. Dame is always a good play. Increase in market share percentage and, playing right where his salary should be highly owned, 22% projection, number 4 rank. I like him too. I don't think there's anything bad about going from Kemba to Dame if you prefer. So whatever your preference is. Mike Conley, he's been producing nicely at times, but he's kind of inconsistent. So, I'm going to go with Kemba and Spencer as my duo there. Let's move on to shooting guard. Shooting guard, THJ, ranked 3rd. I'm not buying it. I'm not really liking the game environment. There's a negative difference in his expected salary versus actual salary. He should be clustered in. There isn't any chalk here for shooting guard, but he's going to be clustered in with the higher owned guys. And if I'm going to pick a higher owned guy, I'd prefer to get one who I feel better about. And THJ is not it tonight. Negative difference in recent market share versus seasonal market share. And he's not as efficient of a player as, I would like tonight if I want to pay up a little bit at shooting guard. Very scoring dependent. I just don't think that this is a very great game to target with a scoring dependent, somewhat expensive shooting guard. So Not into you, THJ. Sorry, sir. I do like Buddy Hield. A lot of positives for Buddy. His solid market share is holding strong. Hasn't really changed much recently versus his season average. In fact, it's actually gone up a little bit. He's cheaper than he should be. He's about $300 too cheap. And he's only projected for 4.6% ownership. I don't know about that. Like, I could see him being a bit higher than 4.6%. But with guys, more name brand guys like Jimmy Butler, CJ McCollum, D'Angelo Russell, even Lou Williams, Jeremy Lamb is becoming more of a household name. There's a few other guys who, pop a little bit as far as name, team, whatever go. But we're talking about Buddy Hield, an unknown guy, so to speak, from the masses, by the masses, and he plays for Sacramento. So, I can see why that 4.6% ownership is there. Great fantasy analysis, Josh. My apologies for that weak analysis there, but the model likes Buddy as the second shooting guard. And I like him too. 33 minutes projected. Cheapest ceiling. What about his floor? His floor is pretty cheap. But among actual, legitimate players based on rank, look at this. You have a sea of red. Bogdan Bogdanovic could be the only thing standing in the way of Buddy having a monster game if Bogdan rotates in and has, a good night. They can coexist. And then another sea of red below him. And then this Oasis, number 9, green. So I like Buddy a lot. I'm all about some Buddy tonight. Let's go sort by rank again and see what else is around here. Like I said, you have a cluster of players here. McCollum, Lamb, Lou, D'Angelo. I would probably go with the player projected for more minutes, and that's Jeremy Lamb, projected for 35 minutes. And what's even better is he leads all shooting guards with the biggest increase in market share, fantasy point market share. He's seen a 26% increase last 2 weeks versus season long. That's huge. Jeremy Lamb is legitimately a weapon now on the Charlotte Hornets. And I love him. I've been using him repeatedly over the last week or so. So that's my duo right there, Buddy and Jeremy. Let's go over to small forward. Small forward, you got Kawhi there at the top, number 2. And I'm not surprised that he's number 2 because after him, it's a lot of uncertainty. Now, granted, Kawhi, who will be very chalky, he has not been returning his salary lately. He's priced at $9,700, but he's playing like he should be priced at $8,200. That's not good. It's a big difference. However, we have to consider the nature of the slate and what is there below him. Well, first of all, let's sort by market share, actual market share. Kawhi's up there at 18.6. But then there's a significant drop from him to Joshie Richardson, who's a fine option, but he himself has not been producing like a $7,700 player. He's more of a $6,700 player. But in the area of small forward minus LeBron and Giannis and KD, you know, you got to take what you can get. You know, if those three guys are not on the slate, then you really got to consider punting. But for this slate, there's not a lot to punt with that I feel great about. Every single player on this slate at small forward who's rosterable is seeing their fantasy production role on their team diminish over the recent term. Okay? Dwayne Bacon, no. Kyle Anderson, maybe. OG, no. Wilson, no. I mean, maybe. But Wilson Chandler does nothing when he's on the court. Damari, no thank you. Bridges, only if there's an injury. There's Kawhi holding strong with his not elite 18.6% market share. Bembry, if he gets a run, he can produce in a variety of categories. Taurean Prince, you really think that he would be coming on stronger lately, but he's not. You know, hence that's, you know, why Bembry might be getting more run lately, because he's kind of fallen off a bit. Taurean Prince has. Joe Harris, you know, in a shootout environment, I like him more, but this isn't going to be one, I don't think. I mean, Josh Richardson is holding strong, but he's diminishing. I mean, he's a safe play, not a ceiling play tonight, in my opinion. Definitely a safe play. So, and then you get down to like Ingles, Gallinari. That's like a little bit of a drop. But then Jay Crowder, Nick Batum, Justice Winslow, Nemanja Bjelica, Evan Turner. I mean, like all these guys, their roles are just tanking on these teams. They are not producing dick for their teams lately. So to roster them, you have to have a legitimate reason for rostering these guys, and I don't have it for you right now. So for me, it's going to be Kawhi if I can afford it. If I can't afford Kawhi, then I'll probably drop down to Richardson. But I like what I'm seeing from Kyle Anderson. Given the fact that Chandler Parsons and whatever the other dude's name is, I can't remember his name right now off the top of my head, they're injured. He's getting tons of run, averaging well into the 30-minute range nightly as of late. Projected for 28 minutes, which I think is very, very conservative. Dylan Brooks is who I was thinking of. Very conservative. I think we're closer to like 34 minutes for Kyle Anderson. The Knicks give up a lot of fantasy production. So here's the thing. The rank is 63. That's not good. However, given the nature of this position, which is dog shit, I mean, look at this. We can sort by difference. And there's only two guys who are underpriced, Evan Turner and Bembry. But do we really want to roster Bembry tonight? I mean, Evan Turner maybe, but his role has diminished so much. I mean, against the Clippers, that could be a decent game environment. I'll highlight him. I'd throw him in there if I needed to. I mean, let's sort by ownership here. okay, like Damari Carroll, like what am I missing? Why? Gallinari, too expensive, 6,900, no way. Wilson Chandler, like he's playing like a $2,700 player right now. And if you know what I'm saying, you know what I'm saying. Okay, you can't be $2,700. So no thanks. After that, like it's really dropping off. Prince, Batum, based on name, Winslow, semi name-ish. None of these guys really pop to me. So for me, like I said, it's going to be Kawhi if I can afford it. If I can't, Josh. And Kyle Anderson if I can afford it. If I can't, maybe Evan Turner. Your second small forward might be your punt spot, your Min Sal one. And the area of Min Sal, I mean, Damari Carroll, okay, that makes sense. He'll probably be a popular punt. Wilson Chandler, but Damari Carroll is a better points per minute producer. That's another thing to keep in mind. Look at this. Nobody over a point per minute. And then there's Damari. Huh. Okay, I'm going to highlight him too. We want Damari Carroll possibly to punt. Power forward. Things are looking better at power forward. No surprise there. Do you fade Noah Vonleh? Wow. Could you do it? Do you have the balls to do it? Can you fade the hottest player in NBA DFS, Noah Vonleh? I can't. Look at this difference in expected versus actual salary. $1,500. The next slate the Knicks are on, the dude's going to be well into the 6,000s. I guarantee it. Guarantee it. But right now he's 5,200. Projected for 38% ownership. I mean, sometimes you just got to eat the chalk. The guy has seen a 9% increase in his market share. And I think if we looked at that figure a few days ago, it'd be way higher. It's leveled out a little bit. I can't fade Noah Vonleh. I mean, look how cheap his ceiling is. This is nuts. I mean, he's up there with Marvin Williams and John Collins and RHJ, but what's the difference? RHJ, 10 less minutes projected. Negative difference in expected versus actual salary. 50 rank. John Collins and Marvin both projected for 30 minutes. Negative difference in expected versus salary. I mean, I like John Collins. I don't mind him actually. There's some context with this expected salary because the guy is coming back from a injury and hadn't played all year. So, I mean, there is, out of 100 slates, I could see Collins outscoring Vonleh maybe 35 times. So it's possible that Collins could be a Vonleh pivot. I don't think I'm doing it. I'm riding this gravy train. I don't give a shit. Like, I love the guy. He is producing like a madman lately. As is Montrezl Harrell. Trez is an animal, and I'm just highlighting him without even thinking. Look at that market share increase. I mean, he is the man on the Clippers now. When he's on the court, the dude is the focal point. He and Tobias Harris are moving in opposite directions. I mean, then there's Serge Ibaka. I don't know. I could see Valanciunas coming in there and spoiling the party. Serge is kind of like minutes. I mean, blowout proof. It seems in a sense lately. He's 7,100 though. I don't know. I'd rather not. I'd rather not. I'd rather not. Let's move on to center. Your number one player of the night, Marc Gasol, who is crushing it lately, 50 plus points in like 3 of his last 4 games, I think. Going against the Knicks, great matchup for him. A little concerning with the blowout concern, but he's producing. He is cheaper than he should be, believe it or not, at 9,200 based on a recent form. Projected to be 5% owned. Positive difference in market share, recent market share. Second in market share only to Joel Embiid, yet he's $2,500 cheaper. So I love Gasol tonight. Let me hop back to power forward real quick. Another guy I kind of like is Jaren Jackson. Only because if this is a blowout, I could see him getting some run. So I love Marco Gasol. Another guy I really, really like a lot is Cody Zeller. Super consistent, priced perfectly, low owned, huge increase in market share. He has the same market share as Dwayne Dedmon, but at half the ownership. Very similar players. But Zeller, half the ownership. And I could definitely see him having a pretty big game tonight. 25, 30 points for a solid 6x return, 5, 6x return. So if you want to pay down at center, he's a good one. Cantor, same deal. I like Cantor. Cheap, 6,600, cheaper than Gasol, but not as cheap as Zeller. I mean, Gasol is going to eat Cantor alive. Cantor does not play defense. But if he gets minutes, Cantor, he's a good producer. But his role is diminishing lately. I'm going to unhighlight him. Nurk alert. Nurk is priced nicely. He deserves that $7,600 price tag. Your chalk of the night for center is going to be Embiid and Whiteside to a lesser degree. I mean, Embiid will probably give you a good game. I mean, he'll probably give you 50 points. Will he give you 70? Hard to say. I don't know how competitive this game is going to be. I'd rather spend up in different places than center. There's some nice players down low in Nurk, Zeller, maybe even Cantor, maybe Muscala. But I'm not going with Embiid tonight. So let's recap. We'll sort by rank, and we'll sort by position. So at center, Marc Gasol, he's your number one player of the night, according to my model. Nurk and Zeller are some alternatives at center, both of whom should be very low owned. And then, of course, Embiid and Whiteside are both like the Cam Newtons of centers. Monster upside every single time. Basically matchup proof. At power forward, your top guys, Serge Ibaka, but I'm not interested. I'm going to eat that Vonleh chalk. I'm going to eat that Harold chalk. But if for whatever reason I get sneaky and I want to go off Vonleh, mega chalk, I'll go John Collins. At point guard, definitely liking Kemba a lot, but you can't go wrong with Dame. I love Dinwiddie. I'm really not that crazy about point guard, but as always, if you think game flow is going to favor the backup point guards and the Hawks or the Knicks will get blown out, then you want to get Trey Burke and or Jeremy Lin in your lineups. Because when a blowout happens, they blow up. Small forward, part of the reason why I don't want to get up to Embiid or Whiteside, well, more Embiid, is because Kawhi Leonard, I feel like I got to get him in my lineup. If I can't, I'll be content with Josh Richardson, but I'd rather get Kawhi in there. And then you could definitely punt your second small forward spot with Damari. Evan Turner's a little more expensive, not a complete punt, but he's a fine play. Good insurance policy for another cheaper player. And Kyle Anderson, purely based on a minutes and matchup perspective. At shooting guard, not a whole lot there that I'm crazy about. I love Buddy. I love Jeremy Lamb. But honestly, you can't go wrong with CJ McCollum, Lou Williams. Maybe you punt somewhere else at shooting guard. I don't know about D Wade. Danny Green, a little too expensive. So that's about it. Alonzo Trier. That's actually not a bad call. There you go. There's one more. Alonzo Trier. All right, everybody. That's going to do it for tonight. Again, I hope that you guys are crushing it in NFL right now. We got 20 minutes to lock for NBA, right? 20 minutes? Is it 6 or is it 6:30? I better check. So, as always, thank you for watching. Hit me up on Twitter @JoshFern, and good luck tonight. I'll see you. Peace out.